Hello guys, I'm back from another video, and today we're talking about what if Belle was Genji and Hanzo's reincarnations, or just Genji and Hanzo. And I'm really sorry about the background noise because I'm currently charging, and well, the extension is basically right next to my fan, so you're gonna be hearing all of this. Yeah, I'm sorry, but unfortunately, yeah. So in the last video we talked about how after the whole, the whole thing about, Belle being, teamed up with, wait for a second. After being paired up with Leafia, they would start to go into the dungeon, apparently to stop a nearby village of goblins, which was pretty weird. So, after arriving there and some people staring at him, mostly at, Leafia and also, Belle, because, obviously one of them is the most strongest and the other is the complete opposite. So yeah, after, going into the dungeon and seeing the, goblin village, which apparently their leader is not a goblin, but instead an ogre, which seems to be the ringleader of this group. And after a bit of fighting, thanks to the help of, Leafia using her most powerful spell, and also, Belle using his, two main ults, which were, Genji and Hanzo's ults from the game, he would defeat the goblins' village, and also the ogre that's basically leading it. So, after defeating both of them, they would basically come out of the, out of the dungeon, which caused everybody to think, did they actually did it? And Izuku would, not Izuku, I meant Belle, after Belle would basically, say to them that they actually did it, but they mostly thought that, Belle did all the work while Leafia was basically there useless. But Belle would basically explain that Leafia was a pretty good help there, which caused everybody to start looking at her, which, caused her to, blush in her expense. So yeah, so after doing that, they would basically start to leave, and when they left, they would basically be hounded by the rest of the Loki Familia members, asking him if they actually did it, which Izuku would, not Izuku, I meant Belle, goddammit, after explaining that they actually did it, but a certain, Bet would say that they probably didn't did it, mostly, Izuku, not Izuku, I meant, oh no, not again. So, Belle would basically explain that, Leafia was actually a pretty good help, but, Bet was pretty much pissed off and telling him to just go fuck off. But after a while of basically, Belle just basically ignoring him, well, one of them, specifically Finn, would basically decide to let him join them in, the Hostess of Fertility to basically just have a drink and maybe even have some fun there. So, after arriving there, they mostly drank and also had some fun. And Bedwell basically, taunting him and also saying that, probably Leafia was basically bribing him to basically give out a good word for her by, either, the gluck gluck, if you get what I mean. Which, let's just say, Belle would basically bring him outside, and let's just say he was beaten to a bloody pulp, but not to the point that he dies. Just enough to basically turn him into somewhat of, a ruined mess. So yeah, after doing that, he would decide to leave and basically goes back home, feeding his bird, and would basically fall asleep. So yeah, that is basically what happened last episode, and so let's talk about what happens next. So, we go back to, Izuku, not Izuku, I meant Belle. For some odd reason, I'm certainly gonna feel a bit pissed off. Anyway, so, currently with Belle, he basically woke up and basically starts to change, turning into his, armor, aka his, adventuring costume, which is this, obviously. So, after arriving back at the, Loki Familia household, he would basically arrive there with, nobody there. Mostly, Loki herself in her office, as Belle would say this. So, what do you want with me? As she would say this. Well, it's not technically a quest, but it's more of a request for me. As Belle would say this, with a basically with a raised eyebrow, as Belle would say this. What do you want exactly? As she would say, oh, nothing, I just want you to go on a date with me. She would say with a cute little smile, which Izuku would return with, alright, but I'm not really into that type of thing, so nah. As she would say, come on, please, I want you to please. She would basically start to plead as she's basically, holding on to, Izuku's not Izuku, I meant Belle's leg. God fucking damn it. As Belle would basically try to shake her off, as he would say, hey, stop that! As she would say, come on, just let me date you. As while this is happening, currently some members of the Loki family, some random members of the Loki family are there basically watching all of this in the keyhole, as one of them would say, yep, she certainly is desperate. As one of them would say, I thought she was a lesbian. I mean, all of the, staring at, wait for a second. I thought she was a bit of a lesbian. I mean, she was basically staring at, most of the time at eyes. As one would say this. I'm guessing she was just misdirecting us. And I did know that she was a bit in love with, one of our, I guess you can say friends. As one of them would say this. Are you sure that he's our friend? He's more like an acquaintance than anything else. As one of them would say this. Yeah, I do agree. I mean, he rarely talks to us, so... As currently with Belle, Belle would basically start to, try and shake her off from his leg, as Belle would say this. Alright, stop that! You're supposed to be a goddess, for God's sakes! As she would say, come on, just let me date you! As Izuku would basically, not Izuku, I meant Belle! As Belle would basically just sigh, as he would say, fine. Just as long as you don't make anything weird, okay? As she would say this. She would basically start to, get a sensory overload type shit. As she would say, in her mind, finally! She would basically say, as she would basically hug onto, Belle, which Belle was pretty much uncomfortable with. As currently, Belle is basically, just like, alright, get off me. As Belle would basically put her down on the couch, as he would say this. So, do you want me to wear something, or, as she would say, yep, I want you to wear something like, civilian-like. Not really adventure-like. Normal clothes. As Belle would say this. Normal clothes, I guess. You would start to think, as she would say, yep, just wear anything, seems nice. I'll just be wearing this. As, Belle would just say, I guess so. After saying this, they would say their goodbyes as, when Belle's about to open the door, the rest of the other Loki Familia members would basically start to leave. After they left, they would basically start to, tell everybody in the entire Familia about this information, which caused everybody to just, look at Loki in a different light. Especially with our main group of, Loki Familia members, which, with Eyes was pretty thankful because, she was straight at the time, not lesbian, or bi, or anything of the sort. Currently with Ben was a bit, somewhat jealous, but not in that way, as in, he liked, Loki. No. It's more like, he was a bit jealous of, Belle for basically, dating one of the gods, or goddesses in this case. Not only that, his goddess, aka, the goddess that he works for, basically, and not in the, he loves her in that way, like that sort of thing. So, yeah. So, he was basically furious hearing that. Currently with Finn was actually pretty happy for her, but not really happy about, Belle, because he knows about, Loki's tendencies of, let's just say causing a bit of mischief. Currently with a certain, Amazoness, she's currently sobbing knowing that she couldn't, she didn't get the chance to basically, try and mate with him. And currently with, Rivia was just like, unenthused. She was just like, I mean, it does happen, I guess. As currently with, Leafia was pretty happy that, Belle is getting somebody that, likes him. But she did sort of had a crush on him. But still, she was pretty happy for him. Still, it's more like, not that type of crush, more like, brother and sisterly bond type of thing. So yeah, so currently with Belle is currently, back at home in his, I guess you can say, apartment, as he's trying to find some clothes that he can go on a date with, Loki. Belle has been finding some clothes as he would find a few, items. One was a simple kind of hoodie type, shirt, which just imagine that type of hoodie shirt, which is basically just like a hood, things of that sort. But, a little bit more like, medieval-ish, I guess. Then he has some, simple black pants, and he would also have, simple gloves, and also, I guess you could say, like a simple dress shirt under the, hood, or the hoodie. So, after wearing all this, he would say, not bad. And so, after wearing these, he would basically start to get ready for his little date with Loki. So, after, a few minutes, he would basically wait outside, and it's currently snowing for some odd reason. So, Belle has to wear, winter-ish clothing. Basically wearing, gigantic, boots, basically in par with, about the size of his entire forearm, basically. So, after a while of waiting, Belle would basically look over and see Loki wearing some pretty cute, winter clothes, which caused, Belle to basically start to blush a little bit, as you would say, "Oh, hey Loki." As she would say, yeah, you look pretty good, and let's go." As she would basically grab onto, Belle's arm, as she would basically start to drag him towards, the gates, and they would basically exit out of the, Loki Familia Mansion, which currently everybody's basically cheering for her, but not Bet. Bet is still pretty much pissed off. And currently with Eyes was, sort of, a bit jealous of Loki, because she's sort of, instead of wanting to, date him, instead she wanted to fight him instead. So she couldn't have the chance, and yeah, she's currently, pouting, currently in her room. So, currently with Belle and Loki. Loki has been dragging him towards some shops, and they would been, just been eating and also trying out some desserts. Mostly some hot desserts, because at the time, it's currently winter, so, why not, have some, like, hot foods, like, for example, some simple hot potatoes and things of that sort. Belle has been would basically get some hot cocoa for both of them, and they would both drink it. One of them would say this, specifically Loki: "Even though it's not wine or any other alcoholic drink, it's certainly quite relaxing," she would say, as Belle would say this. "Yeah, I guess so." As Belle would basically look into her eyes, as Belle would basically start, feel a little bit something in his chest, but he doesn't know what it is. Sort of. Even though he doesn't know what this feeling means, in his subconscious, aka, both Hanzo and also, a certain, ninja, aka Genji, already know what is that feeling, because they did experience that already before. And that feeling is love. But currently with Belle, basically their fused minds, or their fused existence, well, he doesn't know that feeling at all, which he would start to think that he's probably gonna have a heart attack or something. He doesn't know what this is at all. So, Belle would say, do you want anything else?" As she would say this. "Well, I do have something else." As Belle would say this. So what it is, as she would basically, put him in the snow, basically, I guess you can say, pushing him into the snow, as she would basically be on top of him. As she would say this. "Well, I want you to be like this." She would basically, put her, one of her arms in front of, not Izuku, I meant Belle, goddammit. She would basically put his arms above his head and basically, clenching them, almost similar to, I guess you can say similar to, grabbing, or more like being stuck on, something, basically getting your hands cuffed by, handcuffs. She would say this. Now, can you open your mouth, please? As Belle would say this. I don't like where this is going, but as Belle would basically, open his mouth, as she would basically kiss him, as she would basically start to explore his mouth, tasting everything to his, to his, like, to the walls of his mouth, to his luscious wet tongue. Belle would feel this as he would start to feel like something is buzzing all around his stomach. As Belle would basically start to feel immense pleasure and almost feel relaxed. Belle, after a few seconds, he would start to lean in into the kiss. As Belle would basically, start being consumed by it. And after a while, Belle would basically, get up after the kiss as she would basically, stop the kiss and would basically, catch her breath. As her breath would be shown thanks to the help of the low temperature. As she would say this. So, how do you like that? As Belle would say this. I guess that felt nice. As Belle would start to feel a little bit of a blush coming on. As she would say this. I guess so. She would basically start to laugh a little bit as Belle would say this. Yeah. As both of them were basically laughing in the snow, basically, sitting on the snow, or basically, you basically get it. Currently, somebody was still watching them. In this case, a certain, goddess. In this case, Miss, I don't know what the fuck. AKA, Freya. Freya is currently, watching them as she seems to be quite furious. More specifically, furious at Loki. She seems to be, she's usually just like her, calm looking state with a happy ish smile. But this time, she now has a face filled with anger and rage. As she would basically look back at Belle, as she would say, oh, don't worry. I'll take something much more precious than your first kiss, Belle. But for now, I'll make that Loki bitch pay, she would say. As she would basically, start to become a little bit even more angry, knowing that she basically ruined her chance. As she would say, she would basically, become a little bit more serious, as she would say, hey, Otar. As when she said that, her, number one, aka her captain, would basically arrive, as he would say this. What is this, Lady Freya? As she would say this. I want you to test something with Belle. Bring in this special Minotaur, and make sure that Belle will know when he should start to, when he should start to listen to me, instead of that Loki bitch, she would say with disdain, as he would say this. Very well, Lady Freya. After saying this, he would basically start to leave, as she would say this. Now, my Belle, when I find you, and when I get you, you'll be mine. All, and I mean all mine, she would say with a sadistic smile. Back to Belle and also Loki. Belle is currently still in the snow, basically still laughing with Loki, as she would say this. So, Belle, do you want to go on another, exclamation? She would say with her, with a bit of hard eyes, which, when, Belle looks into her eyes, they were almost beautiful. Beautiful. That's the only word that can basically describe her eyes. As Belle would say this. Sure. As she would say this. Now, why not we should just go back to your house? I really want to see what your house actually looks like. As Belle would say this. I guess. So, after getting their hot cocoa, which they got last time, remember, they basically put it in the, bench nearby, they would basically start to leave and arriving back at his home, which is his little apartment. Wait for a second. So, after arriving at his, little apartment, he would basically, sit down on his bed as she would basically sit right next to him. As she would say this, well, this place is certainly, homey. She would say, as Belle would say this, yeah, I do agree. As she would basically look back at the bird, as she would say, so is that your pet? As Belle would say this, yeah, he is. I call him. As Belle would basically think, as you'd say, actually, I didn't really give him a name. As she would say this, I know. Why not call him. Wait for a second. Why not Yadagarasu? She would say, as he would say this. Yadagarasu. As she would say this. Yeah, I heard it's a word from the eastern parts of the eastern countries. I I can't really remember the actual meaning, so as Belle would say this. I see. As you would look back at this bird, as the bird, which I've forgotten to describe, or at least I think so. Well, it sort of resembles a crow, but instead of the usual like the original, like, or the, typical, like, black and feathers or dark bluish feathers, it seems to be pure white with, instead of, I guess you can say golden eyes, it has red ones, making it somewhat albino. As Belle would say this. I guess Yadagarasu actually makes sense. As she would say this. I guess so. As she would basically look back at Belle, as she would say this. So, let me just have some fun with you. Like last time. As she would basically grab onto, Belle's face as both of them would start doing their, passionately, intense kiss. They would basically started, actually, let me give you a warning. This is going to be 18 plus, so get out of here, okay? Go. All of you that are, 18 and, like, not 18 and below, well, get out. So, and technically I'm not 18, I'm 16, but I don't give a fuck. Anyway, so, we begin the 18 plus scene, or the lemon, which I actually, searched up the term for lemon, so, yeah, I'm just gonna call it the lemon. So, yeah, so, the lemon will start now. Currently, Belle is basically, taking off some of his, clothing, mostly his shirt and his pants, showing off his, boxers, as she would basically, take off her, I guess you can say hoodie, or should I say her jacket, showing off her, her shirt, which is, a crop top, as Belle would say this. It seems that you're not wearing a bra, as she would say this. Well, I guess you can say that I am in a hurry. Or at least, at that point, I was a bit in a hurry, she would say, as he would say this. I guess so. As he would basically start to take off her, her crop top with his mouth, as after, pulling it out, you would see her, pretty small breasts, but they were pretty perky. After seeing them, he would basically start to cup one of them, as he would start, starting to, pinch one of them, and he would basically take one of them into his mouth. She would basically start to moan in pleasure, knowing that she was, having fun with his, with her, boobs, or, her breasts, in this case. As Belle would basically, start, stop basically pitching one of her, tatas right now, as you would basically start, swooping down all the way to her, swooping down all the way to her stomach and start going towards her, little shorts, as you would start to take off her, her, panties and shorts, as you would see her, little, private hole, let's just say that. As he would start, fondle her right there, basically, putting two fingers inside of her, as she would start to moan even more, knowing that this feeling is not gonna stop. As Belle would basically stop doing this, as he would basically say this, now it's your turn to have fun. As he would basically tell her to, take off his, boxers, as she would gladly do, and showing off his, pretty impressive dong. It was about, you know, currently it's about like, 11 inches. Yeah, pretty large. She would basically be in awe. As she would basically start to, smell the musk from it, as she would say, this is certainly gonna be fun. She would basically start, sucking it, and basically start, going all the way, which, Belle was pretty much, you know, like that was unexpected to him, as he would start to feel the pleasure basically coming off of it, as he would basically start, feeling so much pleasure to the point that he basically grabbed both sides of Loki's head, and he would start to use her like a fleshlight. Oh boy! After doing that, she would basically start to feel so much pleasure, but at some time she would start to gag. But after a few minutes, Belle would basically, or she blows, and so would basically explode. So, after exploding all of his, cum onto her, mouth, she would be pretty much thankful. After doing that, she would say, well, that felt, as she would basically, she would start to, dribble a little bit with a, a fucked silly face. And this is probably going to be the end of this lemon right now. So, after doing that, she would basically start, get her clothes and basically start changing. She would say this. Well, that was fun, Belle. She would basically say, she would basically lick off a bit of her, lick a little bit of his, splooge, and put it into her mouth, as she would say, it's pretty sour, but I kinda do like the sour taste, she would say, as Belle would say this. I should probably bring you back to your, home. After all, a gentleman is always ready for a woman's, leaving. As she would say this. As usual, you're quite the gentleman, she would say. And so Belle would basically start to bring her towards, back home. Which currently the members of the Loki Familia were basically looking at Belle as he would start to leave. Currently with the other members, they're basically looking back at Loki as Loki would say this. What? As everybody would start to look back at, Belle, which she was gone, as all of them would start to talk to her saying, what did you do on your date? And, how was the date? Or something of that sort. She would basically start to talk about some details about it. Except for the, whole, not Izuku, I meant Belle. Belle basically, deep-throating her and causing her to almost gag. And after telling them about that, they would start to blush. But some of them would start to, root for her and her relationship with Belle. Some members, or at least the main members, were also, encouraging her. Except for Eyes, which Eyes is, not really interested in that. But for Bet, he was completely furious currently now. Like, he's completely mad that, Belle is basically dating, Loki, aka, one of his goddesses, or the goddess that he's basically serving under. And so Loki would basically decide to, tell everybody that she wants to get some sleep. And so she would basically go back to her office and basically lay down her head on her desk. Basically now dreaming about Belle and her basically doing it all the way. Currently with Belle, Belle would basically go back to his bedroom and would basically fall asleep just like, Loki. And both of them would start to, dream of each other, going all the way. So yeah, this is going to be the end of this episode. And so, I hope you liked the video, comment and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!